Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another edition of Hilaal Live, all the way from the Cape Town studios. My name is Luqman Shadrack. I'll be keeping you company until about 20 past 6, inshallah. And then the Johannesburg team takes over, Faraz Patel, and the Joburg team then takes over. It's a Wednesday, so we invite Fadwa Booley back in studio. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Jazakallah so much for coming into studio once again. We continue with the Soul series that we've done over the last couple of weeks, and we've had some interest over the WhatsApp line. We're going to open up the WhatsApp line as well today. If you'd like to be part of the show, more than welcome to send us a message, 079 2511. WhatsApp messages only. Unfortunately, no telephone calls. Now, Fadwa, we've been discussing the family dynamic over the last couple of episodes as well. And I think being a new parent is always challenging. You know, we've got Dr. Google, we've got our family, we've got our gynecologist, our pediatrician. Everyone gets involved in terms of advice that can be given. However, that advice can be quite challenging to a new parent, and more so when the family dynamic gets involved, because parents want the best for little one. However, sometimes it can be intimidating, for a lack of better words. What's your thoughts on this?
So, like I said last week, you need to feel what your body and your baby's going through, especially the mom, right? So when it comes to the parents, how they raised us, we're going to raise our children differently.
Correct.
Right. So when the mothers interfere, like they would say that they're just giving some valuable advice.
Right. You're talking about the mother-in-law,
or mothers,
the mother,
or the mother, right? Because sometimes the child doesn't have a great relationship with the mother. Now the mother's telling her how to raise her own child.
Right.
And sometimes what happens is with clients, especially new clients, new mothers, they will come in the room and say, I've never had a great relationship with my mother. Now she will tell me how I need to raise my child. I didn't like the way she parented me.
Right.
And that's why I remind parents and I remind everyone, your parents did the best job that they could with the information, the surroundings, the environment, everything. They did the best job.
Encyclopedia is
Absolutely.
what they used to use years
yes,
ago.
They open a book.
Right.
Now we just punch in Google. Why is my baby crying?
Not even Google, AI. For that matter.
Oh, it's AI now. So I'm still in the stone ages of Google.
Because, everything's at the fingertips. You're right. Yeah.
So, sometimes, like I said before, it's information overload. You just need to trust yourself. Right. So when it comes to, don't be rude, don't shut your parents down and say, no, I don't want to do it that way. Just say, okay. And still do it your way.
Okay. In that process as well, the new mom may go back to live with her mom or mother-in-law for that matter. So they are around them
all the time,
24/7.
And your hormones are totally crazy.
Yeah.
You go through the baby blues, you go through the postnatals. It's not easy.
Yeah.
You have to deal with a baby. I had a question today, I mind you, in my therapy room, and they said, is it normal to think that what if the baby falls off the bed? I used to have this thought process like, what if I just chuck my baby against the wall? What would happen? I used to think that, and I thought I was the only one until I read a magazine one day, and this woman went through such bad baby blues, and she said a baby would cry, and she felt like throwing that baby against the wall like a ball. That same thought process went through my mind.
Sure.
And I could basically pacify the client to say, the thought process you're going through is normal.
Right.
Because I went through it.
Right.
So I think there's not a woman out there in this world that can say they never thought of that.
Okay.
Sorry?
Yep. So we've got new moms that go through that. We know it's a challenge. Just come out of hospital, just given birth, mom's tired. Fortunately, dads can take a couple of days off now to, to also assist. But in the event that dad's, not there, mom is stuck with the baby. What advice do you have for new moms going through those challenges?
I would just tell the client now, what you should do is detach from the baby, meaning express milk. The parents are too happy to look after that child.
Yeah.
I say, go out for a walk. Leave that baby there. The baby, those parents already raise kids. So it's not like they can harm the child or not take care of your child properly. I said, express milk, leave the baby and go out for an hour. Go walk in the shops, go in nature. She said, oh, she's not driving. I said, get back into your car. Having a baby is not an illness. Get back as soon as possible. Do the things that you used to doing. Because what happens is now they take the frustration out on the husband. The husband come home from work and like, just take this child. I can't deal. Because why? That baby's whole day, she's not looking her best, she's not feeling her best. And that's why I said just express milk and detach. Because sometimes the mothers are so clingy to the children, and then they don't just want to hand the child over to someone else. I've seen already where mothers would sit in lounge with the child, and everybody else want to see the child, and like, hold the child. Like, you got the child all day, let somebody else also enjoy your baby.
But also, mom's going through so much at that time as well, that all of those emotions can be passed on to the child.
Yes, the child becomes full of anxiety. Now the child will have separation anxiety. Put the child down on the bed to see the child cry, because now it's like, mom is keeping me all the time, why is she putting me down? So yes, I spoke last week about coddling. Coddle your child when the child is not feeling good. Hold the child so that you can create a safe environment so the child knows my parent is there for me.
Right.
But don't now go overdo it where the child doesn't know, okay, I can't lie down because I need to be on mom.
Yeah, it's such a process that the entire family dynamic goes through, because it's a ripple effect, especially if there are other kids as well. Mom's now got, maybe one or two other kids, and this is the new baby that's come into play, and she needs to juggle all of this. And that can be the demanding part. So with regards to the new baby, and also the kids that are there, say there's a couple of kids, 2 kids aged 9 and maybe 12, what advice do you have in terms of how mom needs to balance that dynamic?
The dynamic, I would say, incorporate the kids with the child.
Okay.
Bring the nappies on, you change your nappy, you do the bath time, because 12-year-old and 9-year-old is big enough to handle a baby.
Right.
Right? And you pass on that, but not saying like you take care of the child. Hand over. So when you need to cook, your daughter or your son is going to be looking after the baby by the TV maybe or somewhere, and then it will take that pressure from you. So incorporate them. But I've seen parents say, don't touch the child, don't do this. And what the babies will do, the smaller toddlers, they will go hurt the child because like, you're taking my attention now. You have to incorporate that child and say, come, it's bath time, you pass a shampoo to me and you rub the hair, because that's what I did with my kids. When my daughter was born, my 2 sons were in the room and helping me with her.
I think that's a great advice, is making the kids part of the family. I know when my daughter was born and my son was already there, we bought him a gift from her, to say, this is now the new edition, and she'd like to meet you, and she wants to be part of your life as well. And that process went down quite nice, because they're growing up as friends.
Yes, I did the same thing, and then later on, when he was clever enough, he said, but how could she go buy me something if she was just a baby in your tummy?
Yeah, when you think about it later. Kids are just amazing as well. But it's such a lovely process that the family goes through, because number one, this is such a bonding for the family. That just strengthens the unit to progress.
And that's why it's important to get the father involved as well, because when the father isn't really involved, it can cause a rift between the mother and the father. Because now the father come home from work, the mother's frustrated, she's going to have aggression towards the father. You take over, and it's like, I worked all day. But if you set out a routine and say, okay, tomorrow morning, like Fajr time, you see to her, and by the time you leave to work, I'll take over. When you come home, then just give me that time. When you're sitting at sitting watching TV, you just see to him or her and give me that break, and then incorporate it.
You brought up such an important point. Let's take a couple of steps back. Even before baby was born, it's so important for dad to get involved in that process, going towards the gynae visits, going towards prenatal clinics that mom has to attend and things like that. We do find in our community, unfortunately, that dad wants to take a step back sometimes. Or do you find that's changing?
It is changing, because now we're getting the maternity leave, paternity leave, like you said, and they're spending more time with the mom. But it's all for us to incorporate it. But when one day my mom came into my house and she saw my husband frying a roti, and she said, oh my goodness, my husband never fried a roti before. And then I said, yes, in our house it's different. So the older generation won't take kindly, especially when they had the traditional way of, you're the husband, you don't work, you worked all day, you're not in the kitchen. But husband and wife need to work together, because not all of us can afford domestics.
For sure. And also mom's work as well.
Absolutely. And the thing is, it was yesteryear when the father just came home, went to lie in front of the TV, and the women were in the kitchen. Now it's like, my husband was cooking. We would ask each other what we're making for supper, and we will take turns. So the dynamics are changing, and you see now when the older generation takes over or come in and they give the criticism, that stresses the family unit out, because when husband and wife comes together and they're trying to raise the kids in a certain way, it's going to be different how you were raised.
Absolutely.
Because
and I want to touch more on this just after the ad break, because this is a very important dynamic that can make or break how the family progresses.
Yes.
We have Fadwa Booley in studio. It's the Soul series. We chatted about the family dynamic, and especially when a new addition comes into the family and how mom needs to handle that process, and the family that needs to assist as well. The WhatsApp line's open, 079 085 2511. Do let us know your thoughts around this very important topic. You are still tuned in to Hilaal Live. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. It's the Soul series with our very special guest, Fadwa Booley. We have the WhatsApp line open, and if you'd like to correspond with us on this very important topic of the family dynamic, introducing a little one to the family and how that can be challenging, and also chatting about family as well. Fadwa, Jazakallah once again for coming into studio. Picking up before the break, we chatted about traditional upbringing. And we spoke about how when mom gives birth, she often has to go home, or sometimes goes home to her mom or mother-in-law. And traditionally, each family has a dynamic on how they raise their little one. So let's chat about that a little bit, about traditions, but more importantly, things like, you know, when we grew up as well, when the lights went on in the street, that was time to go home, right? That was Maghrib, time to go home, time to come in, stop your cricket and soccer and all of that, and back home. And maybe chat to us about, not taking the child out after Maghrib as well, especially when there's a little one.
Yes, so the baby has fine hairline. It's like the occipital bones and all the bones on the body, right, is not properly developed yet. It only gets developed properly at 2 years old. So now if you take that child out in the cold and they get a draft, that's what's important when they say, the old people say, close the child's head. Close the child's head, put a beanie on, close the head, because any draft can affect that child, and we don't know why the child is crying.
Right.
Then you look at Asr time. So from a spiritual perspective, the Sama opens up from the unseen world. Right? The Sama opens up, the jinn comes down to earth. Certain jinn comes down to earth. They're on this earth from Asr time till Fajr time in the morning. So when the parents say be in Maghrib time, there's a reason why. Because these little minions and creatures are looking for places to hide, especially when they hear the adhan. The adhan goes off, they're looking for places to hide. Now, if the kids are playing outside, they can jump into kids' bodies. And that's how kids get possessed. That's why part of it is also, it's makruh to sleep after Asr. Because when you're sleeping, your soul leaves your body. And if these creatures are going to say, oh, here's a body laying, I can possess you, that's one of the reasons why.
Okay.
So coming from a spiritual perspective, Maghrib time, if you look at the Sama, the color of the Sama is quite red. Red, orange, looks like fire. So what we need to do in that moment, we need to be in a space where we're raising our vibration. Something that I learned recently is that when you're in sujood, in Maghrib, try to stay in sujood as long as possible with your forehead on the ground, on the floor, because you're raising your vibration. And the best time to keep your forehead on the ground as well and floor is the time of tahajjud, because that's the purest light. So if you look at Maghrib's light, it's a red fiery color. If you look at the whitest and purest light, that's a time of about 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning, the tahajjud time. That's the purest light that you find. So the longer so if you look at tahajjud, you're in sujood, right? Your forehead is on the ground, on the floor, and you are raising your vibration, because the earth acts as a magnetic core which absorbs all your negative energy, but it also replenishes your good energy. So if you look at the parents would say, come home before Maghrib time, because they knew. They had this innate knowing, and also their parents taught them, and their parents and generations before that. Because if you look at us now, we've got lots of light around us. Back in the day, it wasn't light. It was paraffin, it was candles, right? So they could actually see the unseen. And if you look at our prophets of back in the day, if you look at Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, when Shaitan was busy tormenting him one day, he took the stone, and that is where pelting the Jamarats came from. He threw Shaitan with a stone. He said, Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. And he threw him, right? Because he could physically see shaitan. We can't see shaitan. Why? Because probably over time, which my logic is kicking in, to say that maybe Allah closed our veils. But we never had all that light. They never had all the light back in the day. So when parents, and you tell parents, or new parents at least, bring your children in before Maghrib. There's wisdom behind those words because of the unseen that's on this earth. Don't take kids out or come home after 12. There are reasons behind that because of the changes in the earth and the changes of the unseen world.
I got you. Okay, thanks for sharing that as well. Now, let's move on to a question that maybe our new age parents will understand more than the older generation, but I wouldn't rule them out in your answer and advice. Excuse me. Chat to us maybe about the importance of understanding one's love language, especially when you have to understand your spouse and the type of relationship you have with your spouse.
Yes. So there's 5 different, I forget the author's name now, that came up with the love languages, right? There's 5 different types of love languages. You get gifting, right? Acts of service. You get physical touch, you get quality time, and then you get words of affirmation.
Okay.
So if you don't know your own love language and you don't know your partner's love language, you're going to expect him to give you love in the certain way that you give love. And it's best to know your spouse's love language so that you can see that how he's showing you love is different to how you're getting it. And sometimes it could even be the same love language. And it's nice to know your kids' love language as well. Because if I look at my 3 kids, the eldest one and the youngest one, they like physical touch. So they will come out of their own, they'll come hug me. If I look at my middle one, he likes acts of service. So he will cook for me and he will do certain things. He'll come rub my feet and he'll do certain, so he does acts of service. I can ask him. We call him Little Gupta because he's always looking at making money.
No, that name's going to stick with him now forever.
And he looks like a Gupta.
Oh, man. Gosh. So it's different. It's amazing how it changes from child to child, although parents seem to pass that on to kids.
Yeah, and I read something that your love language is what you were yearning for as a child. So I love giving. I love gifting. And probably if I think, I probably wanted presents back in the day.
Right.
And I probably never got it. I don't know. Maybe I did. I can't remember. But I love gifting.
Okay.
So when it comes to things like I will offer, I'll do this, I'll do that. Some people, it's acts of service. My mom's acts of service. Okay. You know? Do you know your love language?
Yeah, I'm gifter as well. I'm a gifter and affirmations. I've sort of affirmations as well. Because, it's all about words can really break people down.
Yes.
However, it can also be used to bring people back up as well. You don't know what someone's going through in that day. And just one kind word may just change that person's entire day.
Absolutely.
So what are the experiences with the other forms of love languages as well that you find in the family dynamic?
Family dynamic, like I said, words of affirmation is very important. And then acts of service as well. And then what's the other one? Physical touch. Some people need that physical touch, and then you get the spouse. Some spouses that don't like physical touch, and they constantly push you away, and then the spouse in that way feels rejected. So is it really rejected, or is it just so they struggle with that? And that's why when couples come in, and then I will say, do you know each other's love languages? It's a very, very important, and do more of that. And then I have one client, he will come with a book and he's actually quite cute at it, and then he will say, I tried this and I tried that and my wife is so happy and thank you so much for the advice, and he'll come with his book and he'll write down, and I will say, okay, she liked that the last time, what are you doing to improve that? So there's some that are willing to learn, there's some that is willing to change, there's others just like, just accept me how I am. And if you don't accept me how I am, then why don't you leave? And
also important that a person can touch on each of those love languages at some time or the other in the relationship. And it's always nice to receive the same, because what you give out, you're probably going to get back as well.
Yes. And when the couple learn each other's love languages, you see how the bond increases.
Also true.
It increases because now it's like you're taking note of what I want. And what does a person want is to be seen and heard, and to be valued.
Yeah, because let's face it, when you, for example, words of affirmation, you can't just put an emoji there anymore, you know. it's not WhatsApp. So
It's like I was watching Mufti Menk one day and he said, don't believe people when they say I love you. Like he's like, you just type it not nowadays. And it's like you putting a laughing emoji and you just, and your face is like, you know. So you can't actually rely on the emojis. You have to show the emotion.
I agree. Thanks once again. We've come to the end of today's slot.
So quick.
Very quick. Any programs coming up, projects that you are currently hosting, or?
Today I had the pensioners workshop. Went quite well.
Can I bring my SASA card?
You look pensioners, yes.
Okay.
So this next will be coming up, the Empath 3 workshop.
Oh, nice.
Right.
Okay.
And then
when's that happening?
On Sunday, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah.
And then I'll be running the youth workshop one in the holiday.
Just make sure you don't coincide with the Springbok games, because everybody wants to watch the rugby. I don't think they're playing Sunday, but just be careful.
Saturdays, right? I do Sunday mornings. Sunday mornings and Wednesday mornings now. And I'll even invite the Springbokkers, like, just come to the workshops.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys that need your help.
Like, desperately. I'll teach him the love language.
There we go. Awesome. Thanks very much, Fadwa. All the best. Have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
There we go. That's how we end our Soul series for this evening. After the break, I cover an exciting event that happened at a local radio station, community radio station. Look out for that. You are still watching Hilaal Live.